that Jimmy guy? The jacked guy?
Oh, here you go.
Yeah, Mrs. Nerd got a body on her. With the recent release of the new Super Mario Galaxy movie, every parent I know with small children is taking their kids who have never played a Super Mario game to the theater for a Super Mario movie experience. Mario makes for popular children's toys and live-action theme parks. If you have small children, they're probably as familiar with Super Mario as they are with any other popular action figure, toy, cartoon character, or Pixar/Disney character, whether they've ever played a Super Mario video game or not. And it's for this very reason we have a wild misconception in gaming that Nintendo is for babies, whereas maybe Xbox or PlayStation is more suitable for grown men who like sports games and violent shooters. It's as if Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty made an entire generation of gamers forget that original Nintendo IPs were generally pretty difficult. Now, of course, even back in the old days, you had your choice of grittier looking games like, I don't know, Castlevania, for example. Maybe with its dark gothic appearance, it was a little bit more expected to be as difficult as it was, and it was hard as fuck. But Super Mario Bros., adorable as its box art and character appearance was also known for being an absolutely difficult obstacle course of madness. Your strategy had to be on point, you must adapt to patterns, everything is precise rhythm and flow, and for non-expert players, you will die frequently and get frustrated often. So when, in the fucking world, did Super Mario's reputation for difficulty die off? 40 years on, I know there's easier Mario games available across different consoles from the past decade, but while an 8-year-old can enjoy a Mario theme park and a Pixar-like Mario movie, who's giving an 8-year-old a Super Mario game and saying, here, knock yourself out, it's for kids? If we're going back to the original trilogy, fuck no, it ain't happening. Yes, Super Mario was still as cute and cuddly looking as ever, but that did not mean these were games for young players. They were way too difficult. So when did the difficulty level lighten up enough to claim this franchise is suitable for little kids to play and enjoy with no issue? Super Mario World? A little easier than the NES trilogy, but that's a no. Yoshi's Island? Maybe the cutest yet, but still too hard for little kids. Mario 64? Maybe if they just want to wander around fucking aimlessly to amuse themselves, but no. Mario Sunshine? Fucking forget about it. And then we get up to what I consider the current Super Mario games. Yes, fuck you and fuck time. If it happened in my lifetime in fucking HD, it's current. Super Mario Galaxy, you got the 3D world, things of that nature, and then the new Super Mario side-scroller series. From memory, I think these are going to be a little easier than the original side-scrollers, but still way too difficult for small children to enjoy. Going back to the NES and Super Nintendo days again, I love how back in these days, video games were still made with the general implication that video games are for kids, teenagers, and yes, some young adults, but video games are games, so characters and environments were colorful, vibrant, fun, and dream world-like. That's a theme Nintendo has maintained for 40 years, and God bless them, because the entire appeal of video games for someone like me is feeling like a kid again when I get a chance to play them. Modern, violent, gritty, more cinematic games on modern Xbox and PlayStation consoles remind me of just the opposite stereotype, that video games are the occupation, addiction, and favorite time waster of a grown man-child. And for them, we gotta have a violent, cinema-style, bloody, slick, dark, whatever the fuck kind of game, and that's what always comes to mind when I think PlayStation and Xbox. A grown man screaming into his headset, playing an online multiplayer shooter with his boys while his girlfriend, in realizing she's fucking a grown man-child, knows the next time she catches his ass cheating, she's breaking that fucking Xbox. And let's not forget multiplayer games as a whole made way for a console like PS5 to even exist, being as expensive and useless as it is, offering hardly any new IPs or fun PlayStation 5 exclusives, and knowing you'll buy it just to have the latest piece of technology you play your same 3 multiplayer games on. And suddenly the common gamer isn't even into platformers, because that's not multiplayer, and maybe along with that, when you can play as a pair of hands holding a gun till the end of time, you do dismiss the notion of playing as a cartoon Italian plumber, a wombat, or a raccoon. At least Nintendo maintains that if you still love Mario, you gotta have our latest console to play the latest Mario game, and console after console they put effort into reimagining and reinventing the Godfather IP of gaming so that he justifiably never goes out of style. Cause say what you want to say about Mario hanging around for a long time, but you can never say Mario got stale. Every couple of years there's a totally new Mario title that's usually a very original and new playing experience. Remember how big of a deal Super Mario 64 was? And then Super Mario Galaxy was absolutely next level. Whereas some franchises never go away, but hope that your nostalgia keeps their generic sequels and reboots selling units, Mario always earned his relevance. And to factually dispute the claim that Nintendo is for babies, data indicates that a significant portion of Nintendo users are actually adults in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, many of whom grew up with the brand. And many of whom who still want a platforming Mario challenge, because Mario is more often a challenging and thinking playing experience than not, despite his family-friendly branding. Now, if we want to talk about video games specifically for small children, speaking about this concept literally, before I was old enough to have any level of skill that could maybe take me halfway through video games without difficulty stopping me in my tracks, I remember playing Sesame Street games and Elmo games on PlayStation 1 when I was around like 5 or 6 years old. Games like this specifically said on the box that its difficulty level was suitable for small children, I think 5 and up. They may have even had a rating below E, like the G rating of video games. I forget what it was, whereas E was like the PG rating of video games. So if this is your first time seeing the channel, I'm Jimmy. I'm a neurotic, aggressive gym bro who had a nervous breakdown, took a biblical vow to deal with his problems, grew a big beard, hid away from society, and used video games as a means of occupying my time during that period, and am now really experiencing gaming for the first time at 30. Why I'm so out of touch, as you may have noticed if you've seen some of my shorts, is because I legitimately tuned out of video game technology for the past 10 to 15 years and am just tapping back in, first and foremost, getting back in touch with how much I love Mario. Between the original NES and the new Switch Lite that a girl I see gifted me, I have been loving current and retro Mario at the same time, conveniently at the same time that this Mario movie has come out, and everybody I know is talking about Mario and taking their kids to see Mario, as Mario is more prevalent than ever in the culture, and I'm like wanting to say, that's so crazy, I've been on a Mario kick myself, while realizing it's not quite the same thing. I've been playing a whole lot of Mario. Everybody talking about the Mario movie has went and saw a Mario themed movie based on this, but it is not this that they're getting hyped about. Whereas I'm like, the games is everything worth getting hyped about. And I think people are very out of touch with what made Mario and still makes Mario an incredibly addictive playing experience. It's almost like when something's been in the culture long enough, it just naturally gets taken for granted. And what made it so pop culture initially gets entirely forgotten about. I just fucking died because I'm trying to commentate and play this at the same time. Like I was saying, back in the day, most popular video games featured cartoony-looking characters, at least platformers did. Back then, maybe Sega had Xbox's current reputation, like it's a supposedly more slick, mature console associated with more badass games than Nintendo and their cartoony bunch of characters. To this day, I get people leaving comments saying things like, I was always more of a Sega guy because Sonic is more mature than Mario. Yeah, Sonic, a character with a much darker tone.
Are you a Sonic guy, Sega?
Tiny bit. All he does is run.
Okay.
By today's standards, it's all the same difference. Mario and Sonic have both been made into kids' cartoons, action figures, and kids' movies. I always thought part of Mario's appeal was the fact that the games he's featured in are a bit of a conundrum. The environments are bright and colorful, the music is positive and cheerful, the character is cute and tiny, but the games themselves are fairly challenging. Not to mention addictive. Unlike many platformers I can think of from the same era and in the many decades since, the experience of Mario is one of getting frustrated to no end while simultaneously struggling to shut off the Nintendo and call it a quits. You gotta try again and again and again. That alone is what makes Mario side-scrollers a one-of-a-kind experience. Whereas platformers with all the difficulty and none of the addictive qualities are a dime a dozen experience. Those are the games you actually get so frustrated with, you shut it off and don't return. Like, fuck this game, I'm done playing it. How do you feel while playing through obstacles and levels of Mario? How tapped in and stuck to the screen do you become? There's almost no game that affects me like this, but since Mario 3 in particular seemed to affect everyone like this is why many refer to it as the greatest video game of all time. I co-sign that and have a whole video praising it for being just that and urging younger gamers who didn't grow up with it to play it at least once. So let's dive into the difficulty Super Mario was always known for, up until recently. Apparently people forgot. It took me until 30 years old to get far along in this game. Recently has been my first true trial and error experience of working through the entire thing, and while it is frustrating as fuck, I still have to say it's a lot of fun, and there's nothing quite like it. World 1 introduces you to the game, gets you into the swing of things, sort of gets you engaged and addicted, but the intense difficulty starts as early as World 2. The worst part about a primitive side-scroller is not having continues. If you lose all of your lives, you play the entire world over again. That's every stage you've already beaten if you lost all of your lives. The only stages you only have to beat once are those creepy castle stages. For that, they give you a pass. What this then becomes is something like training. You've got 4 lives to complete an entire world. If you can't do it in 4, you got to play through it all over again. And you'll do this several times. If you've mastered 8 out of 9 stages, but you fumble the 9th stage, you go practice becoming perfect in those first 8 stages to maintain all your lives, and hopefully a 1-up or maybe hitting all 3 stars at the end of a stage for additional lives, so you can make it through that final stage you've been struggling with. You can rack up a ton of extra lives and lose them all, which makes you so disappointed in yourself. Either way, you're going to practice and practice and practice till you've mastered the entire world in order to move forward. Something that would never happen in a current Mario game, not in a current game in general. For the past month, I've been going back and forth between Super Mario Bros. Wonder on the Switch Lite and Super Mario Bros. 3 on the NES. Working through Mario Wonder is a breeze in comparison. If I die, I wind up right back at the same place in the stage where I died, like any modern game, and I get to continue. In the old days, I think NES games were designed to be similar to arcade games because arcade games were more the standard of the time and home consoles were still something we were getting used to, in which the stages are brief, so if you die, you play it all over again. Something worthy of evolving past with the times, and sure enough, we did. But in comparison, I never master an entire world in a current Mario game now. I just play through it with my saves and completions. It is interesting to note that for a gamer with average or below average skills, Mario 3 made you master a world top to bottom in order to move past it. And what's happening throughout all that trial and error? You are becoming addicted to Mario. Is it any wonder why those of us who grew up with Mario 3 are so connected to it? We had to play through every stage of every world countless times. We became unnaturally familiar with the themes of this game in order to complete it. I'm never going to have the same connection with Mario Wonder, oddly because of its fairness. I don't have to become hyper familiar with what's around every corner of every stage to make it through this game. I'm able to drift through it with more ease, and we'll talk about how it's nice to just kick back and enjoy exploring a side-scroller like this that doesn't have to be ultimately difficult, and still, I do gotta note how much less of an impression this will ultimately leave on me when I'm through with it. Whereas the stages of the original Super Mario Bros. Games are burned into our subconscious because of how dedicated you had to be to make it through more than 2 levels of the fucking thing. That is a different kind of nostalgia. Another aspect of Mario difficulty that was a little bit more present in the early games was overcrowding stages with more and more enemies the further along you got. This was the only known way to make stages more difficult in early platformers, this being the #1 reason I refer to Super Mario Bros. As an obstacle course. Whereas jumping ahead to the modern day in Mario Wonder, you have stages that put more thought into themes of difficulty. One of the most difficult stages in the game featuring no enemies, let alone overcrowding stages with enemies. Here, you have to sort of parkour your way up vertical platforms in which you never have an ordinary spot to land and jump. It's super nerve-wracking and really difficult to figure out the first couple of tries. That is a creative means of difficulty that has nothing to do with overcrowding you with enemies flying all over the screen and an obstacle course worth of don't jump here, don't jump there, enemies are flying at your head, they're under you, they're coming straight towards you, they're behind you. Oh, we can actually use this level in Mario Wonder as a perfect example of the difficulty of just platforming elements. This is just hopping platforms in the most difficult, unique way possible, whereas we can go back to Mario Bros. 3 and say, this is just an obstacle course. And oh, that reminds me again, you motherfuckers that say you're platforming fans but won't play Mario. I mean, what do you call this but nothing more than a true respect for the element of platforming. This is just platforming, not a single enemy in the stage. All right, don't let me get on a roll here. Let's talk about Mario Wonder. I regret not playing this on a home television console. That's the first thing I gotta say. It just feels like it's meant to be experienced on a big screen. Albeit screens on portable consoles these days are humongous compared to original Game Boys and even DS devices, probably even a little bit bigger than PSP screens. But since I have it on a portable console, I treated it like a portable game. Play a level here and there when I'm bored, then put it away. and Wonder is way too immersive of a game to experience like that, but I'm just going to try not to drop $500 on a Switch at the moment. I was lucky to get this Switch Lite gifted to me, and that's the first modern console I've owned in forever. Unless this is, well, I guess it's a Switch Lite, not a Switch 2 portable console, so maybe I'm still a console behind. Fuck, I can never keep track. I like how while new Super Mario Brothers games, well, assuming you know what I'm talking about when I say new Super Mario Brothers games, would you know I'm referring to the specific series entitled New Super Mario Brothers if I didn't flash an image or gameplay on the screen to tell you that's what I'm talking about? You could just think I'm talking about a new Super Mario Brothers game, and what is new? That depends on who you're talking to. If you're talking to an old schooler, something new is anything that came out after the Wii. If you're talking to a new schooler, the only thing considered new is anything that came out in the last 3 months, and I don't even think they released a Mario game in the past 3 months. I could say Mario Wonder is a new Super Mario Brothers game, but some smart ass might say, well, that's already 3 years old. New Super Mario Brothers was the worst title for a new franchise of Mario side-scrollers. When they started making Mario side-scrollers again, being that they took a break from it for quite some time, what was wrong with pulling a Mega Man or a Crash Bandicoot and calling the first new Mario side-scroller on a modern console Super Mario Bros. 4? Wouldn't that have been a hotter item too? And what's the difference? It's not like these games kept continuity. Every game is the same storyline. Might as well have made the first new Super Mario Bros. Side-scroller in a long time, Super Mario Bros. 4, would have also made it a lot less forgettable. Then if you called the next one Super Mario Bros. 5, I think by this point we'd be up to like 7 or 8 Super Mario Bros. Games that we could all canon into the same original franchise. And why wouldn't it be? They're easily distinguishable from all other Super Mario Bros. Games. They're fucking side-scrollers. Anyway, while the new Super Mario Bros. Games kept 2D side-scrolling Mario alive on modern consoles, Wonder basically said, what is left to do in a Mario side-scroller that we haven't already done after 40 years of Mario, besides throw everything at you? So fuck it. Here's a Mario side-scroller with every kind of power-up and every kind of new ability packaged into a side-scroller where seemingly anything is possible. You aren't limited in any capacity whatsoever in terms of what you can do in these stages. They threw the fucking kitchen sink at us. So much so that this is one of the first video games I've ever played where I actually wanted to take a half hour to read the manual in order to understand everything that's going on, assuming it even comes with a manual. I downloaded it from the fucking ether, so I guess I'll use the internet to research it, but just the fact that I even feel inclined to do that is wild. Of course, I made it to World 5 without researching anything about the game, because who the hell wants to read up on a game manual? That's for dorks. But it's wild. There's so many new themes to explore, so many new enemies, new abilities, new power-ups, badges, suits, objectives, and so many different things that you can do in this game that you do miss out on a lot by just pressing start and roaming through the game. I almost want to say Mario Wonder does too much in that regard. The fact that I can't just get a natural understanding of everything going on in the game by playing through it is a little overwhelming. Mario side-scrolling mechanics are never not addictive, so to be able to experience them in an easier game that sacrifices enough difficulty for you to breeze through and appreciate the visuals is nice, especially when I feel like 2D side-scrollers don't often thrive on the reputation of graphics. That always seems to be something more reserved for 3D games. The graphics here are phenomenal, the colors are wonderful, the sound is fantastic. You always want to grab that seed that transforms the entire stage mid-level. However, I will say this is the first Mario game I can recall playing where you really can, in many instances, just fly over most of the enemies and obstacles in the stage. Like really, just jump over and around all of it. The game insists upon you exploring your badges, power-ups, and different suits. To be honest, I can't really tell the difference between a badge, a power-up, and a suit. Particular levels are designed for particular abilities that the badges allow you. You can't move forward without collecting a Wonder Seed from every level. They're easy enough to find, no major complaint there. As far as the badges, I don't know if I've cycled through every one of them, and there's too many for me to... they say don't lay out too many options for the customer because they're likely not to pick any of them if they have to choose between more than 3. Hey, going back to Super Mario Bros. 3, what did we have? About 2, 3, 4 suits to choose from, if that? And I hardly use any of them. The overall impression I get, I think, is Nintendo saying the stages that once tortured you in the 80s and 90s are now your bitch. Just do whatever the fuck you want with them. You can just run right through them, explore, and dominate. You can even turn into a giant fucking elephant just for the fuck of it. And if anybody knows where a giant elephant even fits into the Mario mythology, let me know, because that's not something I really wished I could have had in the earlier games. Like, if only Mario could turn into a giant elephant, I would have been more satisfied with Super Mario World. Like, that's not something that ever crossed my mind. I don't like it. I want to play as Mario, not a giant fucking elephant. Sometimes you're in need of a power-up, so the elephant's available, you grab it. But, I don't want to. I'm not more satisfied once he turns into an elephant. How do y'all feel about the elephant? I think that was one of those elements of this game that was like, why not? We're throwing everything we can at you. Why not just turn into a fucking elephant and just run through shit? But visually, I don't like that. Who the fuck wants to play as an elephant? All in all, playing these games side by side, Wonder is an expensive, fancy Fuente Opus X premium cigar. Lovely flavors and a lovely experience. Super Mario Bros. 3 is the pack of Marlboro Red Hundreds that got me addicted to cigarettes. And I always say I'm going to quit, but I always got to have just one more. Every time I want to put it down, I pick it back up. The more it frustrates me, the more engaged I get. And even when it pisses me off to no end, I'm still having fun. Simply put, the genius, the difficulty, and the overall rich experience of Mario has been taken for granted, largely forgotten, and treated as commonplace. Yeah, we'll always have Mario, for the children, for the babies, for my 6-year-old. How much of this comes from the fact that he's not a violent-looking character? Like, really, just to keep it all the way a buck, how much of this comes from the fact that he doesn't use a gun? How many people honestly think a family-friendly brand and look for a character actually speaks to the age and skill level of those who can see their way through levels meant to challenge the fuck out of the player? I mean, from its inception, Mario's intended reputation was addictive and difficult. So much so that the intention of its first sequel was to unreasonably upscale the difficulty to an expert level. Yeah, like Mario was hard, and that's why you loved it. Mario 2 is going to be fucking impossible, which will really impress its initial audience. Until they realize, nah, we can't go in that direction. We got to lighten up a little bit. Yet today, it's like, oh, Mario, he's cute, right? And I'm over here still to this day going, that's it? That's your impression of Mario? Well, I think over the course of 2 videos now, I've laid out my case for why that is asinine.
I am on 4 hours sleep right now because of everything I had to do this week. 4 hours of sleep every night this week.